Alrighty. Okay, so last night I did not finish the whole Mark Fusion interview. There was a second part that I was going to do, but I was reacting to a 20-minute Keemstar video that took about an hour and a half to get through, maybe 2 hours. The VC did get distracted, get off the rails. It did. No VC for today. We got to keep this on point. I got a timeline here. Gonna start barbecuing or grilling hot dogs and hamburgers. For 4th of July. I can't speak right now. 4th of July. Okay. Haven't started drinking yet, but we'll be drinking tonight for sure. So I guess shots are open. If you want to support me that way, we could do that. Anyway, so tonight or this evening, we're going to start with the Keemstar related stuff and then get into the second part of the Mark Fusion interview with Ben Thorp. So I saw this and it was wild. I don't know a whole lot about Tina D, but I know enough to have the opinion that is absolutely disgusting. Completely white trash. White trash where she's embracing the white trash. I mean the dirty side of the white trash. Like, I say this as someone who will embrace the white trash myself. Like, I will drink the cheap beer, the cheap liquor. I will go around and embrace that sort of lifestyle. I mean, I grew up poor, still kind of poor in me. I have 2 bathrooms in my house. Where do I like to pee? Outside of my backyard. Why? It's freedom, baby. It's freedom. I don't care if the neighbors see it. Hell, they're the ones looking. I wave hi at those in the apartments, in the new apartments with the nice balconies looking upon my house like I'm some sort of peasant. While I'm pissing with my little wiener. I'm like, hey, how's it going? You need a magnifying glass? I'm a grower, not a shower. Anyway, so happy 4th, happy 4th. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this. Let's start with this here. With Tina D here, let's go and make this bigger. That's what she said. There we go. Let's go ahead and get rid of that one square because we're not going to have no VC, no way to persuade me. That's just not happening today. Okay. So, we don't really need a whole lot of context here. You can see it on the screen. Hey, King of the Swamp, how's it going, man? So the goal is 44 members, and Tina licks hernia. Kid behind the camera's hernia. So what you see right there, I know I used it as part of the thumbnail because what you see there, a big man right there, a woman on the couch like that, it already looks bad, right? It's like, okay, I think I'm in the bad section of Pornhub here. I like to watch the amateur videos. I want to see the real stuff, but this is too much right here. This is like, whoa, wowzers, dude, it's crazy. I think she has some Cool Whip. And I feel like I'm stalling. I am stalling. I'm stalling because let's just play it. Here we go.
Full screen. Listen, I'll stay in full screen. Oh yeah. Okay. Make it good. Make it good. My people.
Oh, gross, nasty.
Worked for this. My people worked hard for this. Oh, Tina's.
Do it now, Tina. Right now. Get it over with.
Come on. Come on.
Oh.
Yeah.
Woo! Yeah.
Kind and Cookie, you're amazing. Thank you for the one gift. Oh, he's running. He's running, Albert. He's running.
You guys in here?
It's full screen. It's been full screen.
You better fucking love your car because I am helping you too. I love it better if you finish.
That is so nasty. That is so low right there. How lower can Tina go? What's the next members goal? Tina licks the kid beyond the camera's butt crack? I mean, this is nasty, dude. Does she really need to do this? Does she really need to humiliate herself like this for money? I mean, that's what it is anymore, right? It's like, okay, what's the next thing we can do? And then you're just going to keep on upping the ante. If they keep on doing this, they're going to be in a shoe nice situation. They're going to be eating fish bait. I know CE, I've never seen a hernia in it before either. I didn't know what they look like. I never had that problem. But yeah, so that's what the amount is. At first I thought there was like a cancer. I thought there was a tumor. You know? That's some disgusting stuff right there. And Tina is a nasty, nasty woman. Look at her. There is no amount of beers. There's no amount of beers, no amount of liquor that would get me to do anything with that. I need to show Steve this. I do. I do. And maybe he'll say something like these people need Jesus. We're going to play this one more time for those who didn't see it.
This is the perfect fucking end. I'm going to stay in full screen. Listen, I'll stay in full screen. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Make it good.
Yeah, I legit thought that was a tumor right there. Doesn't it look like a tumor?
Make it good. My people worked for this. My people worked hard for this. Oh, Tina's.
Do it now, Tina. Right now.
yeah.
Just get it over
Come
with. Get it
on.
over here.
Come
Get it over here.
on.
Oh!
Yeah. Woo!
Yeah.
Kind and Cookie, you're amazing. Thank you for the one gift. Oh, he's running. He's running, Albert. He's running.
Yeah, see, in that part, it's all scripted and all that stuff. Okay. All right, that's nasty. I don't want to watch it again. If you want to watch it again, you can go back and play. Okay, you can do that. But what we're going to do is continue on this Thorp interview that I failed to continue with last night. All right, I'm going to play this. Baby's head. Yeah, right.
Okay.
All right, so yeah, it's part 2 of the interview. Part 1 was cut off due to a thunderstorm. Let's speed this up as well. With the Thorps, you kind of have to speed it up. Come on. Kick, what are we doing here? Kick, why is Kick causing problems? Come on.
In it to, like,
there we go.
Make a ton of money, and I wanted everyone to. I felt like, especially since it's an Ethiopian place, but this whole idea that like people from other countries really want like to sell their culture, it's just not really true. I imagine back in the day. I mean, not every place that became an Italian pizzeria, like there's probably 20 other Italians who were like, I don't, whatever. I'm just going to do whatever job, be a garbage man. And you have to find someone who has that spirit of believing in it and, having the entrepreneurial spirit. It's not enough just to say like you have the potential. You have to have that drive. So they basically.
Okay, let me put some context here for those who forgot. So in the first part of this, we learned that Ben Thorp had some money. He acquired some money from selling some property or whatever, and the money was actually for his dad. It was his dad's money. He was supposed to give it back, but he did not give it back. I guess he got his dad to agree that if he were to invest it, he can keep it. He had to invest it in something. But his dad told him not to invest it, specifically not to invest it in a restaurant, because the dad knew that a restaurant would just be a money pit. So what did Biddendorf do? He invested in a restaurant, and exactly that, okay? And the restaurant was eventually shut down due to, health violations because they had slugs in the basement with the ingredients there. The They had an ice machine that was leaking water that was going through the ceiling on the second floor and dripping into the kitchen. That's a health violation there. Not up to code there. So not looking too good. The kids were roller skating on the second floor. So imagine you're going to an Ethiopian restaurant. You want to have this nice food, and then you hear like a roller derby above you. Okay. So Mark Fusion is continuing with the interview. Let's continue.
Didn't want to do it, and they basically, they want. And interestingly enough, I this could get me in trouble, I guess, but I don't think it would. Like they all wanted to stay on welfare, and so only get paid on the books up to the amount you could on welfare, and then get the rest cash, which is a scam. But like, they had me by the short and curlies. What am I going to do? And
that sounds about right. Hey, you want that government money to keep on coming in,
They really like a lot, and this is like the negative side of immigrant culture. They worked the system to their advantage, and they didn't really care about like, contributing to society or whatever. Like they just saw it as like they hit the ATM, and they were really surprised actually they had to work hard in America, because to them, you can imagine in their mindset, they'd watched movies and they thought it was just going to be like, yellow brick road, right? And they were like really upset because they got free housing for a while.
Well, what movie has that depiction of America? You come to America, yellow brick road, everything is provided for you. You don't have to do anything. A job? You don't need a job. The government's just going to give you money. Oh, man.
When you're a refugee, right? So you're a part of the system. You're not an illegal immigrant. You get free housing, free furniture. That's how I met them, because I was part of this program. All your health stuff is updated. It's kind of like first world, like it's pretty good. But then the system drops you off at a certain point, and then it's like you're supposed to be going, doing this on your own. And I think they were like, sort of like, what? We're in America. It's over. We shouldn't. They didn't mind working, but they just kind of saw it as like, well, but what happened to the yellow brick road? And it's kind of
what happened to the free money. Yeah. That's what happens, man. People will exploit that 100%. 100%, man. And people are offering me free money. Oh, man, I will exploit that. Oh, dude, I would game the system so hard. Absolutely, I would.
kind of understandable because we give them such a leg up at the beginning. It's really like amazing. Like the apartment is there. You know, I ran the furniture. They pay for nothing. The idea is like, you know, take your time, make sure you get your shots, all that stuff. So, so there really wasn't an entrepreneurial spirit there. They wanted like factory jobs, and there was even a girl we had. She was cute. She was smart. And she got a full ride to Brandeis University, which is like a pretty good school. But she could barely write English, but she was at the top of her game because she went to, I guess we could call this an urban high school, if you know what I mean, where no one did their homework. And she did her homework, even though it was like poor, but she was like, you know, high ranked. Brandeis is like, I think $80,000 a year to go to. She got a full ride.
She got a full ride because she was the best of the worst. There, she couldn't even write English, right? It was all gibberish, but because she was better than everyone else, that was on the bottom. She got a full ride there. Okay. Well, you probably don't want her to be your doctor.
But instead of doing that, she ended up getting a job in Boston at a factory, making $12 an hour, and I was like, oh, that's such a shame. Her name was Titi, and you know, she was like 19 or 20 years old, and I just don't think she.
Hey, Mr. Stinky Brew. Well, you missed Tina licking the cancer, the tumor. That's the only thing you missed. We could play that again if people want to see that. It's pretty gross and disgusting. I'll say if there's demand for that, okay. But yeah, we're continuing on with the interview. Ben is talking about how the refugees would game the system, would game the welfare system, and they really didn't want to get off of it. They wanted to keep it for as long as they could, which is about right. I mean, that's not even racist to say. That is what it is there. If I had the opportunity to game the system and get some money from the government, I absolutely would. Okay, I understand the mindset. Yeah. Absolutely. Anyway, well, we're going to be celebrating America's birthday today, so we're going to be on schedule. So we're moving on. That's right, it's Mr. Stinky Brew.
She understood like what an opportunity that could have been for her to go to an elite school for 4 years.
I'm going to smoke a little
the mentality
cigarillo.
is more like survival and staying with my people and that kind of stuff. So there's a kind of ghetto mentality in a sense, like stay with what's familiar. So they weren't willing to take chances.
Great.
So they didn't want to do the, and I had met various Ethiopian people, sometimes Ethiopian Americans who came in to the restaurant who I thought like, okay, maybe you could take it over. But like Ethiopians, there's two types of Ethiopians. There's Ethiopians who are here like on an H-1B, and a lot of times they're very well educated. Ethiopians are one of the wealthier ethnicities. Then there's refugees, and they kind of saw themselves as different class-wise, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So like, I don't know, we were in Texas and California. I think some of the old, Mexicans who had, they had businesses, they see illegal Mexicans as kind of trash, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, because they're getting handouts. Because because they probably had to work a lot harder for what they got. I mean, that's the truth of it there. It's like, okay, it's like, wait, what? And also, I mean, it means more people are on the system too, for the ones that are using it, But anyway.
So there's a little bit of that. And I just couldn't find anyone who wanted to partner, but we once had people come.
I'll say this, from all the ethnicities I've ever interacted with that were like, I think the hardest working, especially manual labor, has to be Mexicans. And someone's gonna be like, "Oh, that's racist." But like, look around you. Who's mowing the yards? Who's doing the roofing work? Who's doing the construction? You don't see a bunch of black people out there. You don't see a bunch of white people. You might see a white person every now and then, What do you see? What do you see with your eyes? No matter what state you're in, it's what? Mexicans. I mean, they're hard working, man. For sure. Absolutely.
Come from the UN, who were actually from the UN, and they were so, because they had seen like the refugee camps, they were so impressed. I think they left us a $200 tip because they were like, "This is amazing what you're doing here," because they knew these people are like largely unemployable or barely employable. And they were like, "This is what we should, this is what this program should look like. You should be subsidized, all this kind of stuff." They were like just super impressed of what we were doing. And so, that kind of idea. And then
generous Ben giving jobs to Ethiopians that are pretty much unemployable, right?
and there was a girl who was a student at Brown University, and she had started nonprofits in Ethiopia, and she wanted to do a nonprofit with me through Brown, but she wanted Brown to subsidize it and have it be a kind of, so I had this idea a bunch of times. I didn't care. I didn't care. See, if you had to choose between a nonprofit and an anti-profit that's losing $10,000 a month, it's a no-brainer, because a nonprofit just breaks even. And at a certain point, I just like, yeah, breaking even sounds great, because you at least can pay yourself then, as part of the nonprofit. So Brown nixed the idea. I did a lot of work with her. I wrote up a whole proposal.
I like how this is an interview, and Mark, just like, he has no room to ask any questions. You get like these long stories
with her, but they didn't go for it for whatever reason. Even though there was a professor, or I think we had a couple of professors there who really loved the restaurant, really saw what we were doing was cool. Maybe they didn't want to take it on because we were going to have food carts.
Food carts
that would go to like different places, even not necessarily in Providence.
Let's see if we can get those likes up.
Because the food is just stews, so you can take
we'll do
like
shots
Subway,
today.
You know what I mean? You don't need.
It's
to have
America's birthday.
Part. and we bought food carts and stuff, but we could never get the
America.
operation going beyond just getting a food cart. And then I met this guy also who worked with the refugees, and he had started his own business making granola bars with refugees. And his name was Keith Cooper. And he was like a really nice guy, kind of a bleeding heart, sort of liberal type of guy, but also understood the problems of working with refugees. So I was like, oh, Keith, take this off my hands, just take this off my hands. And we were doing a ton more revenue than him. So we were doing, I don't know, $200,000 or $300,000 a year in revenue, which is pretty good for a restaurant. And he was doing like 100,000, he was doing like 50,000. So I was like, well, we're not making money.
But did he know how bad the conditions of the kitchen were? You had water dripping from the ceiling going into the kitchen. You had slugs on the basement. It doesn't sound like it was very good. I wonder how bad the bathrooms were.
And he was
like the bathrooms in a Thorp restaurant would have to be horrid, absolutely horrid. Who is unclogging the toilet? Who's doing that job? Has Ben doing it? The Ethiopians, they're not doing it. Ben described them as lazy. Okay, I'm just using Ben's words there, okay?
He was only making money because it was a nonprofit, so he was getting all these grants and stuff. Because his granola bars would have cost like $30 for a granola bar if he was like not getting subsidized, because everything with him was like a program, and I don't know what to say. Like it was.
You ever try them?
Yeah, they're good. You can get them. They're really delicious. But his model was not to make it profitable, but to have it be a program, which there are all these programs like work readiness programs. But he's like, well, why don't I do one that's actually producing a product? That way it isn't just, you know what I mean? It's not just like educational money. So combined.
Honestly, this story has gone so long, I kind of forgot the plot of what the question was that Mark asked. Hopefully Mark gets a chance to ask another question so we can get back on track here.
It, which makes a lot of sense. And I had a whole way. It would have been great. It would have been fantastic because you could have given them little ribbons and stuff. And, they would have been like proud of their achievement. And then you have like, titles for them and stuff. And they would have really liked, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. It works universally for people. But you need to have the staff to be able to do that. You need to bring in people from like, there's a school, Johnson & Wales, that's a culinary arts school. You need to bring in people to show them knife skills and, give them like a seminar about it. And you need to pay those people, whatever. And we were running on a shoestring. So
So you didn't have any time to teach them any skills or anything. Cordy was in the back of the kitchen but couldn't talk to him either because they didn't really know much English. And like I said, Ben described them as lazy, so there's that.
really thought it was going to be a great.
I would say one thing here that Mark did is allow Ben to just talk. Of course, some people probably hate that, but just allow Ben to talk, and things were. Ben talked about things without even being asked, really. Like, Ben is the one who brought up how the restaurant was shut down for, violating health codes and stuff, okay? And Ben was willing to go into detail about that. Pretty gross. He was a victim of slugs and a dripping ice machine.
A great thing, and I didn't even mind if he just took the whole thing over, because it would have been a much bigger, in a sense, product for him than just these granola bars, which was like a tiny. I mean, they had a budget of like $250,000 a year, but only produced $50,000 worth of granola bars. So there's a lot of support staff that he was paying that could have also worked with us. But we were bleeding pretty hard at that point, so I think he didn't want to touch us. Then at one point, so because he was a nonprofit, there was this school, Johnson & Wales, is a culinary arts school. So they invited him to go to this huge building that they were demolishing.
Okay.
Because it was outdated, and it was loaded with food equipment, right? Like huge pizza ovens, all kinds of stuff. And they were like, come grab what you want, because we're just going to demolish the whole thing. Because as a culinary art school, they don't really pay for their equipment. The equipment manufacturers like give it to them because they want the students to become familiar with, like, I don't know if you know, like Viking, all the like high end kind of stuff. So
Makes sense.
So for them,
Okay,
it's just like,
right.
well, it's all going to get thrown out. So he's like, oh, well, you should come with me and see if there's anything you want for the restaurant, which was nice of him. So we went to go visit, and he got
That's true, south to west. If Mark had cut Ben off, Ben would have just gotten upset, right? You can't cut him off. You have to let him talk.
a couple of little things for his granola thing. And I said to the guy who was running it on behalf of Johnson & Wales, I was like, so all this is just going to get thrown away? He's like, yeah. And I was like, what if I just took it all? Because the idea was like, well, we'll get nonprofits to like pick here and there. I was like, what if I just take it all, get it off your hands? He's like, great. I don't want to deal with all these people coming here, and it's all going to get thrown away. So I had a huge Penske truck, that I got, and I got a warehouse, put up shelving. It was crazy. All had to be done within a couple of days. And we got all these Ethiopians together, and we just took everything we could. We didn't know what the hell it was.
Dude, imagine that. The picture he's illustrating for us. Big Ben, big tall Ben, has his truck. He has a bunch of Ethiopians, and they're trying to get the equipment loaded into the truck there. A big, tall, white dude commanding a bunch of Ethiopians to do labor. Oh man, this is it's looking pretty good. Okay.
Everything piece of equipment we could, loaded the van up, dropped it off the warehouse, loaded it up again, dropped it off the warehouse until the guy was just like, okay, that's enough. Get the fuck out of here. And we were like, okay, I don't even know what this shit is. And then.
So was Ben going to sell this stuff for money or just give it to nonprofits?
Grace and I inventoried it, and I was like, when you look this stuff up, it's like, holy shit, is this? We had a gelato maker. It was like $50,000. We had like a donut maker. It was like a $40,000. You know what I mean? Like this very specialized equipment hardly got used. And I put it all on eBay. And it was shenanigans. The place was a shithole that we rented from because I didn't have really a lot of money. The guy let me use his forklift, and I broke a lot of stuff there, and he wasn't happy.
Wait. Did you even know how to use a forklift? Were you certified to use a forklift?
Happy about that. But but it was a godsend because, you're supposed to pay state taxes like 7% of everything you sell, but they only collect it from you at the end of the month or the quarter or something. And we were like 30 grand behind. And the guy who was from the revenue service was like, I'm not letting you be open next month unless I get this. So I was like, oh, this is perfect. If I can sell this stuff. So I put it all on eBay. I initially put it on Craigslist and no one wanted it because it was so like, who wants a gelato maker, right?
On Craigslist? Yeah. You don't go to Craigslist looking for a gelato maker. You go on Craigslist looking for a hooker. I don't know anything about that. When was the last time you guys used Craigslist? You go to Craigslist if you want to run into a serial killer, dude. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, so this sounds right on par with Ben. Wild idea. Just acquire all this equipment, cooking equipment, and try to sell it on eBay. But then the warehouse rent and there's things, he's breaking things with the forklift. It's just not working well. Ben really can't just catch a break, can he? There's always something.
But you put it on eBay, boom, I get a guy in Canada, who's like going to give me $12,000 cash for it. I like wrapped the shit up in mattresses, just freighted it the hell out of there, and we made the payment. We're like, it was a godsend. But then so that you know, Keith knew about it because he was the one, you know, so he knew I was strapped for cash. But eventually he started to say like, well, you've got to give me half of everything you sell. And I was like, dude, I got to make this payment or I'm out of business like next week. So I would lie to him and say like, okay, yeah, definitely. I'm keeping track of it. And when it's all done, I'll pay you back. Right.
Ethical Ben, right? Totally ethical Ben. He's lying about how much he's making there.
He eventually could see he wasn't getting paid because, and I have no qualms about it because look, you know, of course my family's my top priority. I don't care about but he wanted to like hire a lawyer to do all the nonprofit stuff just like perfectly. He took me up to New Hampshire once for a weekend for like a conference for.
But even back then, Ben was a gypsy. Okay, he had that gypsy mentality there.
Like entrepreneurship at like the you know Stonyfield Farm yogurt. You ever seen that? Like the really high end yogurt. Anyway, the guy who like started that company had this. But he did everything with like conferences and professionals and all this kind of stuff. And I don't think I think he came to realize, but like I didn't have that kind of money or that kind of time, you know, to do this stuff. As much as I think that's like kind of good, but he was like a kind of big, you know, a 30,000 foot kind of guy. And
right.
He's like, before he does anything, he's going to talk to 10 lawyers and 5 consultants. So eventually I was just selling the shit. And I was like, well, he'll get whatever he gets at the end. Cause I paid, you know, I'm the one who made it happen. So, and then we can talk. Right. But he got pissed. And I actually remember the day there was like 2 Russians who were coming up from Long Island to get something that like Subway, it can toast bread, but it's like a microwave at the same time. Anyways, they were like, okay, $1,500 would be there today. And I knew Keith was going to like kind of like fuck me over. And I was trying to hide these purchases from him. So he talked to the landlord who locked me out.
Ben is trying to scam some dude that's in ties with Russians? Dude, Ben's lucky he's not dead.
And I was like to the Russians, I was like, sorry, this, you know. And then what did he end up doing? He ended up losing everything in there, didn't sell another thing himself. And the landlord just took it over, which sucked because, you know, at least we could have at least someone could have benefited from it. So I was kind of pissed at him, but I understand why he wanted control. And I did kind of tell him we're like partners, but I really was going to prioritize. Obviously, you know what I mean? Like, how are we going to have a partnership if this is out of business? So it's not like I was taking the money and going gambling with it. I was like really trying to sell. He never sold any of it. I sold it really hard. Grace actually helped me a lot of times selling it. I sold tons and tons of stuff. It was through him that I got access to the stuff, but whatever. So it ended up being kind of like a bitter parting of ways.
You don't
but
say.
He never would have been able to do it. He just, I don't know. Sometimes someone can see something and be like, okay, I get how you're rolling here. And
So Ben conned his dad out of money. Ben conned this other guy out of money. Ben is just a con artist, dude. He's just a weasel. Don't trust him with any money. Especially don't tell him to invest it in something wise. He's not going to do that. He's going to do the opposite of what you tell him, right? You tell him, hey, don't invest it into a restaurant. What does he do? He does that. A GTA 4 side mission? Yeah, just about right?
I can work with you. Other times it's like I just do things in a totally different way. And you're never going to get like the situation I'm in. Unless you've got like $1 million.
Yeah, Ben is one of the guys that would be wasted in a GTA side mission. Absolutely. Because he's causing problems. He's shorted the boss some cash, you know? He's keeping that money for himself.
And then I would have been happy if he just bought me out of it. But, you know, I think he thought I was in a better position than I was in. So.
Ask you, you said your restaurant was already working with a program that was doing things to help immigrants. Were you part of that as part of like the workforce placement?
No, we never got any money. I mean, I just knew them. Like, so they're an agency.
Okay.
So when I had been a landlord, they had given me tenants. And so it was good because the government paid their rent initially, so you didn't have to worry about like collecting rent from them. On the other hand, you had a lot of problems, like, and they were nice people, and this was like a tough neighborhood.
Okay.
They were nice people, but you'd have these bizarre like cultural problems. Like I remember once we
Did he
had a
cats?
woman from, I think she was from Eritrea, where there was a civil war.
Okay.
And leading up to like July 4th, she was like, they are shooting, there's war here, you know. And I was like, what are you talking about? I went over there, and it's firecrackers, right?
Well, yeah. That would be a big difference there. I can imagine.
And she was like, she was legitimately thinking like it's a war zone. Then I had like two women from different. One was Muslim and one was, I think, Eritrean again. But the Muslim woman, like they were yelling at each other. I couldn't understand what was going on. Neither of them spoke any English. At one point, one of them is like, she makes stinky. And I was like, what are you talking about, right? And she's like, she puts it in the fridge. And I was like, what?
What? She's not putting her poop in the fridge.
And then she would point to her anus and be like, yeah, it comes from here.
What the? Who's putting her poop in the fridge? I don't care what culture you're from. That's nasty. Don't do that. That is no. That's no, ma'am. You're not doing that. There's, dude, what? Okay, hopefully Ben will give us some more context here.
Manar.
It wasn't Manar. And she's inviting men over. The Muslim was like, she invites men over, and that's not part of my culture. I was like, well, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not, you gotta. So what eventually happened is that like the other woman had a stool sample that she had refrigerated, as a medical thing. And the other woman, I was like, okay, guys, I don't know. So each of them wanted their own toaster and their own refrigerator and a lot.
Well, I could see why. Refrigerating your own stool sample. If the doctor asks for a stool sample, I'm giving them a fresh one that day. I want it warm. I want them to feel as uncomfortable as possible. They're like, oh, sorry, doctor, forgot to give it for you. I can give it to you right now. I'll take a shit right now. That's so nasty. Never would I ever put that in the fridge. Oh! Just a mental image of opening the fridge and just seeing a plastic container with a giant shit in it. King of the Swamp. Whoa. Well, which one's the act? Is this the act? Or is Bratman the act? Which one is it? Anyway. How good of an actor am I?
Locked doors. And, I was just like, that kind of stuff. But they were generally nice people, but, you have all these cultural issues. So I wasn't a huge fan of the whole thing by the end of it. And I was, I think immigrant people are interesting, but they're exhausting to deal with. And all the refugee, like the people who worked with them also, they were kind of, once you got to know them, they were like, these fucking people suck. You have to be, and they would always tell me, you're.
Dude, it sounds like working with refugees actually makes you more racist. because you see what it is and what you're dealing with. Yeah. So all those woke college kids need to work with refugees directly so they can see what's going on.
You're too nice of a guy. You need to be hard with them, which is interesting, and I think they were right because they'll fleece you. They're just they're poor people who are used to scrapping. So they'll, you know.
Hey, Ben, but you're a scrapper too, man. Hey, you fleece people as well. You told us that multiple times in this interview.
They see every American as like just an ATM to hit up. So you have to be hardened that way.
A brief intermission, really quickly. Brief intermission. I just wanted to thank.
Grace is intermitting.
I wanted to thank South to West, Answer Damage, Joe Shabatoni, Extreme, and Mock Lavelle for gifting a sub each. We do have a donor goal of 15 subs for the interview, and we're going to keep going until 8:30.
That's cool. That's amazing, guys. I mean, and that's not ironic there. Like the Thorps, they get some support there. They continue to stream. You know, it works out. The whole I guess the whole thing works out there.
So please subscribe, donate if you.
I will say definitely it's 4th of July. Yeah, I will definitely be taking shots for any super chats, donos, or memberships or whatever. We're gonna do a members only stream tomorrow morning. So there is that as well. Yeah, let's continue with the interview.
Enjoy the content so far.
It would be really interesting if you could ever get Grace's mother to do an interview, because I don't think she would disagree with me very much about the experience. And well, who knows? I don't know. Apparently, she sees things differently than she used to. But I do think she really I couldn't give her more kudos as a worker. And you know, when I think about that, I'm like, yeah, I'm legit amazing, because she hung with it well past when or really anyone else. And the actually the greatest thing she did is she worked so hard making the bread that she developed carpal tunnel syndrome. You know what that is? Like where your tendons kind of go in.
Oh,
and so we
really?
were able to apply it at the end when the restaurant closed for workers' comp, because you pay into the system. And accidentally, they paid us. They were going to pay us 10. They accidentally paid us $20,000. And the lawyer was like, "Yeah, you're supposed to give that back, but if you don't, what are they going to do, right? But don't apply for workers' comp again." And we were like, "Okay, fine, we'll keep the 20 G's." So, and I remember hearing at the workers' comp, like in the office, they were like, she was like a legend. They were like, she made like 20,000 loaves of bread.
Wait, back up. So what, did they scam? Did they get some more free money?
Like where your tendons kind of go in. And so we were able to apply it at the end when the restaurant closed for workers' comp, because you pay into the system. And accidentally they paid us. They were going to pay us 10. They accidentally paid us 20.
Oh, they got a little bit more. Hey, well, that's a mistake on their part.
$1,000. And the lawyer was like, "Yeah, you're supposed to give that back, but if you don't, what are they going to do, right?" But don't.
Well, if it's the state of Texas, they'll ask for that money back. They'll be like, "Yeah, we want that money back."
Apply for workers' comp again. And we were like, "Okay, fine, we'll keep the 20 G's." So, and I remember hearing at the workers' comp, like in the office, they were like, she was like a legend. They were like, she made like 20,000 loaves of bread. And it wasn't really bread, but someone was saying like she made like 20,000 loaves of bread. My God. And so, you know, she did though. She did make that many, probably.
When she was the head
I was
chef.
kind of see, when did you know like that the nonprofit was? Did it kind of just fade once the health inspector issue came and you guys had kind of moved on? Was it kind of always open, or did you know there was a time like it wasn't going to happen?
No, when Keith locked me out, I knew that was it.
Because you didn't give him the money?
No, because he kind of felt like I was a criminal at that point.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I technically hadn't signed anything with him. So it was like kind of trust.
But you just said earlier, he knows what he's doing. He knows he was scamming him. He knows he was fleecing him for money, right? He wasn't being honest. But, technically I didn't sign anything, so it wasn't anything bad. You know, just very weasel mentality, dude. See, this is part of the reason why I did not want to hook up with them when they're in Texas. I had this idea to go to Galveston, go to like the spot, go to like one of the bars there. You know, I'll pull up with my bike, look cool and all that. But if we did any drinking there, Dude, I would get stuck with the tab 100%. 100% there.
And he was, I don't know how to say it, like, I don't know how, it's tough to negotiate with someone when they don't really they're thinking in kind of like, he was a Yale graduate, he was from a rich family. He kind of understood that things are done a certain way, slowly and with planning. So if you meet someone who's like up to their neck in shit, you know, trying to dig out of it, they're just not going to be able to like roll with like doing things slowly. So, I mean, I think his granola project is still going on. You can look it up online. But he's the type of guy that would spend like 5 weeks.
But that was a great answer to that question. When did the business relationship end? I would say when he locked me out. that was a good reply. That was a great reply there.
Developing like one graphic on a website, you know what I mean, to make it just perfect. And because
I know I'm streaming during Ruby's time slot, that's pretty bad. Can we get 10 likes? That'd be great.
His business was so small, I guess he could afford to do that. And he would spend a ton of time trying to get grants and things like that.
Yeah.
Which is important to do, but I just, I was just trying to keep the
I
doors
would,
open.
CE. I would. I'd feel sorry for Grace. I'd be like, you need new shoes. And then it'd just be bad, dude. Okay.
Open. If I had the chance to do it all over again, before I would have even started in on it, I would have partnered up with him, and then probably would have been fine. But I think it would have taken him 20 years.
Was that the business partner?
Get the first dish on the plate,
Was that Keith?
This is him, right?
Yeah.
It's like a OPC Don could put on a disguise and pass as this guy. I think.
He's a nice guy, but he's like very frail and sort of, I don't know. When I went to this like conference with him, so every night he has to put on like biofeedback. He's got all this like, he looks like a mummy almost to get to sleep. And I was like, dude, what is all this? He's like, it's biofeedback to help me calm my nerves. He's like, my parents weren't very good to me. And I was like, what? So anyways, kind of a nice guy though. It's just like culturally was just like a mistake.
Yeah, he does look like George.
What is biofeedback? Chat, do you guys know what that is?
Costanza a little bit.
Costanza. I mean, you can hit him up. He just didn't get how I was rolling.
Did you tell him your nickname for him?
No, it sounds like he got how you were rolling, which is why you were locked out.
Queef Cooper.
Sorry about that.
It was a shame because it could have made some sense, but you needed someone with deep pockets to like make the whole thing work. And they could have made it all work, but it just wasn't a thing. And then I think also like having a young family and my stuff with Courtney wasn't really making any sense at that point. So like she wasn't a particularly good partner to have, although I could never done it on my own. It's just a lot of things kind of made it fall apart. And
thank you, Steven.
But I do think the hand of God was in it. Like,
believe it or not, even a dumbass like myself understands what frequency therapy is. Weird stuff. Weird stuff that probably doesn't work. Probably like a placebo effect.
Like, it's so weird that I met these Ethiopians, that I had this money right at the time there was a place I could get, and I don't see those as terrible years.
And you didn't listen to your dad's advice, which would have been the best advice would be to not even do this whole thing. But if he had listened to his dad, we probably wouldn't get the Thorp streaming. So I guess it's all part of the plan. Biofeedback is good shit. Okay, so it works. All right. Maybe I'll give it a try.
Even though in some sense the kids got neglected, it was kind of fun for them to meet people of a different culture, to eat. The food was delicious for them. It was a really healthy diet. And we spent a lot of time with them, like during lunch. You know, the kids were with us. We were supposedly homeschooling them at that time, and we were
supposedly homeschooling. They probably weren't even homeschooling at all. I think Grace talked about that experience, and there wasn't really much schooling. How could Courtney both be the teacher and be the cook? You know, like Grace has like this weird expectation of her mom.
Really weren't. So eventually we sent them to school. And you know, it was a very chaotic time, but
like this current time isn't chaotic. It sounds like the Thorp life has been chaotic ever since Ben was walked out of being a teacher. There's probably a reason why he didn't go back to teaching. There's probably more to that story.
I think it had its good points.
What would you say, like, the overall legacy you would like the restaurant to have?
Overall legacy. You know, now it's actually it was taken over by, so this guy, he wanted us to come back after it closed. He was like, I'll clean it all up. And I was like, can you own it? He's like, no way. So they actually got people from, you know, those people, the Uyghurs or something like that, the Muslims in China who are oppressed.
The Uyghurs, the ones that are being how do I say this with TOS? I mean, I guess I can say concentration camps and stuff like that. You know, yeah. Okay, those guys. Okay.
Uyghurs. Yeah.
Uyghurs sounds bad. Uyghurs does not sound like it's TOS friendly. Those damn Uyghurs.
The Uyghurs, actually, it's a Uyghur restaurant, which is weird. I've never been to it because I don't want to get like PTSD. But they basically just took it right over, and it's still there, I think. But I don't know what the legacy. I think a lot of people got a lot of really good food there. So I don't think there's really anything to
That's not what the review said.
be ashamed of, but
I think one of the reviews said it took about an hour for them to get water. Did Courtney have to make the water by hand? Were they filling up the water from the drips coming through the ceiling? Was it drip by drip into the glass? Is that why it took an hour to get the water? Don't worry, the water's filtered. It's going through the floor of the second floor and through the ceiling of the first floor to get into that glass. It's filtered. It'll be fine.
financially, it just couldn't work. The restaurant business is a brutal business, and
which is why your
you
dad said not to do it.
Certain type of person to make it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know how the kids feel about it. I don't know how their mother feels about it.
Well, Grace could talk about it.
But I mean, I don't think I could ever do it again. It was crazy. But, you know, it makes YouTube feel like heaven, you know.
Down to convert the RV into a food truck at any point?
You know, I've always thought that
to convert the RV into a food truck, they would have to do the deepest of cleanings to that RV. Right? That would get shut down. That would get shut down so fast.
Courtney could have a little, like a little calm, little local place that serves Ethiopian food. I'm sure she'd get a lot of customers. You know, it wouldn't have to be in a central location because you'd be the only game in town. And just run it like
Joe Shabatoni in their chat said Mark fell asleep. No, Mark just asked a question. You could convert the RV into a food truck. Has Mark seen that RV? Ordering food from a Thorp food truck sounds like it would be a LOLCOW live challenge or a LOLCOW queen challenge right there. And Tina would do it. If Tina was willing to lick the hernia, she would definitely be willing to eat a burger from a Thorp truck. Absolutely. How are we doing, chat? How you guys doing? Are you chilling today, 4th of July? I'm pretty much chilling right now. I mean, this tobacco's hitting quite well. Feeling pretty chill. We're almost done with this interview. We're halfway done. After this interview, I think that's going to be about it. I have to go get some fireworks and get some other supplies and going to be barbecuing.
As a counter front, maybe Thursday, Friday, Saturday kind of thing. I think she could do well that way, but I think for her, it's kind of like, I don't know if you ever had an experience where you're like, you got so deep in something, you just don't want to be reminded of it. It's just a bad memory. I just never want to be reminded of it. That was her thing. I think about a lot of things, including me and Grace. So she's not one of those like, let's try it again type of people. But also I do understand, like, she literally like sacrificed everything for it. Not everything, but like,
That sounds like almost everything.
She was all in. She was a trooper until the end.
Unlike Ben.
She never really like slacked off. She was a really good worker.
Can I ask you a question? I hate to butt in, but
No problem.
wouldn't you say that mom would have made a great employee but a terrible wife / business partner?
Yeah, she's not like a manager type, but
Well, I thought you were the one that was managing, right? I mean, I guess Courtney was supposed to run the kitchen. Sounds like she was running the kitchen just fine. But Ben, what were you doing? It sounds like you lost interest and you just gave up and you didn't want to do it anymore. Probably just smoking cigarettes out in the back. And then get, what was that one complaint, the one review? There was this tall man yelling at his family.
if you were working
At a struggle session right there in the restaurant.
like a Wendy's or something, like she could single-handedly work it. Like if everyone called out, she would like be able to work the whole place. You know what I mean? And be very what's the word? Diligent about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or anything like that, where it's like just like repetitive work, hard work, even stressful. She's not like she's not gonna just say like fuck it and leave. She can work under a lot of pressure. And I think
Dude, their chat's hilarious. Courtney's country cooking.
she thinks she likes
Oh, no,
it.
cucking.
She
Courtney's
likes that
country
type of work.
cucking.
So
Even now, she's working several jobs when she could live off welfare money
yeah,
with the kids she has in her custody.
they should hire her. With that
Well, good for Courtney. Good for Courtney there. She doesn't want to be a freeloader. She wants to provide in more ways. Okay.
humanitarian fund thing where they got everyone.
You know what? I'll take a shot for that. I'll take a shot for Courtney choosing to work hard instead of being a freeloader. Okay. Do I even have a clean shot glass? This is the cleanest shot glass I have. Oh, that's 4th of July. Taking a shot of vodka here. Really, it should be whiskey. I don't really have the money to do a liquor run right now. But that's what we have. We work with what we have here. This shot is for it's for Courtney. For choosing to work hard instead of being a freeloader. Good for her. Oh. All right. We're good.
on shooting bullets at the Palestinians while trying to deliver them food. Like, she would be pretty good about just like keeping the Gazans like getting the food as the bullets whiz by her and the IDF is like grenading the place. I think she'd be like, no, we're getting the meals to these people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She'd
I
be
know
good
what
in
you
like
mean.
a combat zone. Strangely enough. I would hire her to do that. You know what I mean? Like, if I was the IDF, I'd hire her to do that because
She could work for the IDF.
she would also, at a certain point, probably take a machine gun and blow them all away herself out of frustration. But
wait. It is saying that Courtney would take a machine gun and blow away what, the Palestinians?
seems to be the way it goes over there.
Do you have
Some
any
kind of
like
insane
stories or
situation.
memories of like memorable encounters you had with customers? Like I'm like imagining. I think a lot of us have like imagined what you were like dealing with the customers.
Yeah.
Do you have any like stories that stand out?
Yeah. Let's get some of that. Let's get some customer stories.
I would talk to the customers a lot because I was trying to develop, like return customers and things. But maybe I overtalked sometimes. But I just
You don't
found
say.
the culture fascinating. It was really It's a fascinating culture, ancient culture. It's half Muslim, half Christian, and they really get along well. It has like all these resonances with Judaism. The music is fascinating. The history is fascinating. I never learned the language or anything, but yeah, I remember one group of customers I was really trying to hope for was to get a hold of was at a certain point, there are people who adopt kids. They can't, and American kids are very hard to adopt. Young kids, very hard to get babies who are like.
How does talking about families adopting kids have to do with customers? Am I missing something there? Maybe Ben explains. Prepare for like a 10-minute talk about I guess the struggles of adoption and how it leads to, because what is he trying to say? He wanted customers that were like foster families. I don't understand. I thought he wanted college kids. Did he get a lot of college kids to go to his restaurant?
Young, white, would fit in with your family. So a lot of times people go abroad. And at a certain point, Russians were doing that until they found out the Russian mafia was involved with it. And then they cut it down because they were basically selling kids.
They definitely were. There definitely were. And a little side story about that. I used to work at a psychiatric facility. I swear I wasn't a patient, but it felt like I was. And for adolescents, dude, 90% of the kids there were like Russian adopted kids. Like they were Russian babies. Because a lot of families would adopt these kids, these babies, and they're from pretty much Russian baby farms. The mothers were probably whores, prostitutes, and the babies were just there, and they would be sent off, and they have all sorts of damage going on because of the way they're raised and stuff. And they would end up in psych facilities. Dude, yeah, true.
And that happened in Ethiopia too. And the same thing happened. It got shut down because they found.
Rizza, you know what, man? I think you could have done this interview better. I think you could have. Now, I like how Mark let him talk, but it kind of was I think Mark was afraid to cut him off, because if he cut off Ben, then it would, he would get mad.
Found that a lot of people were sort of selling their kids.
I think Mark was high here for sure.
They really weren't orphans. But for a while, people really liked, I hate to say this, Ethiopian kids because they're sort of exotic looking. They don't look like black kids from West Africa. And it's sort of that Brangelina. They have
What?
kids who are diverse and stuff. So I hate to say it, but
What? Why are we talking about this? He asked you about your experience with customers. Why are we talking about the different kids, different types of... Okay. Okay, guys, listening to this, What questions would you have liked Mark to ask? You know, it's kind of late now. Like, what would you have asked if you were doing the interview?
If you're adopting foreign kids and you're a liberal white person, your Ethiopian kids are sort of like high on the tier list of like flexing your virtue signaling. So there was a bunch of these people who had Ethiopian kids, and I think like for good reasons, they wanted them to know more about their native culture because these people were all white people, and so these kids had been born, maybe spent a year or two in
I did
Ethiopia,
not see his mugshot. What?
And they wanted them to
Wait, is it recent? Did NoFap Gamer get arrested? You could send it to me in the Discord. You know, the Discord's a friendly place now. Friendly for all. If you get bullied, handle it yourself. I don't want to have to deal with it. Okay? Obviously, if you break TOS, if you post some illegal shit, you're like, yeah, that's going to be a problem. You do that. I'm Mr. Ratman. I'll report you to the FBI, dude. All right, get you shut down. But, yeah, my Discord's a friendly place in the sense that everyone's invited. And, if you guys have beef, you can handle in there's a Discord channel now called The Pit. That's where you go for that. Okay, makes sense to me. Makes sense to everyone. Respect the rules, and everything will be fine. The rules are very, very minimal. Figure it out yourself.
you know what I mean? They didn't want them to just be
because
totally...
hey, it's my Discord. I'm barely in there. Okay. I'm barely in there, and that's the truth of it. In fact, I need to wrap up this interview because I need to get going and start getting some more supplies. You know, for the festivities tonight. Rizza, are we taking more shots or what, Rizza?
Disconnected from their heritage, so they rented out a big like auditorium underneath a big Catholic church in Providence, and they had all these kids and their parents, and they would hire us to cater. And then I started getting a couple of our people to like, I wanted them all to have their names written in Amharic. So this one guy who could write Amharic, I gave him a calligraphy pen, you know, so he write all their names in Amharic, and they could meet someone from their culture, etc. And then there's this one guy who was half blind, and he played the keyboards. You remember that, Grace? You don't remember this?
Yeah, I know. I remember that guy.
But the idea is, guys, like, it's entertainment. It's a kid's party, right? So they were the worst entertainers ever. And so the guy with the keyboards just mumbled. And I was like, they don't care if it's, you know, a real thing or whatever, but like, he couldn't get the thing working. And then the guy doing he had this line of 20 kids, and he would take like 40 minutes for each kid's name, talk to them. And the parents were kind of like frustrated, but I'm like, well, you know, if you really want to know what Ethiopian culture is like, this is what it's like, you know? So, and the kids, of course, didn't want the food. They just wanted hot dogs and chicken tenders. So all the white people ate, again, the Ethiopian food. All the Ethiopian kids just ate chicken tenders and hot dogs because the parents asked.
They didn't even want their stuff.
Ridiculous kind of thing. Anyways, that's about it. That's about as memorable as it
I'm gonna
got.
redact some stuff. I don't want to
Courtney
dox
had
him.
this like great friend. He was a super nice guy. He was a gay dude who lived nearby, and he was like a top, I guess, and his bottom would come over sometimes. Remember that guy?
Oh yeah, Mom loved him.
So she had her
Kevin?
gay BFF who came almost like 3 times a week for lunch. He was a charming guy, loved the food, and they would bash gay culture together because he was kind of an anti-gay gay.
Yeah, he was.
Anti-gay gay.
What the hell
All
was
right.
his name? Kevin?
The wrong kind of gay, huh?
Colin? Something like that.
I forget. But
Fat guy,
he was
right?
a hoot.
Fat guy.
Yeah, he was fat, and his boyfriend was skinny, and had been on some reality TV show, I think.
Boyfriend was a little grody.
Yeah. So they were really good friends. You know,
Gross about it, Grace.
What's that?
What was gross about the guy?
Oh, he was just kind of like, I don't know, you know, and like skinny and like.
All right, I'm going to pause this right here. I'm going to show you the mugshot. Okay. The important details are redacted. First off, actually, you're not even going to be able to see them anyway. Let's go ahead and let's share this here. Is this recent? Did this happen like this week? What happened? He was just on the show. He was just on the show, and I thought it was actually a pretty good talk. I liked it. You know? What happened? What happened to NoFap? Let me see if I make it bigger here. There we go. There we go. That's what we have there. Unfortunate. You know what? For a mugshot, that's not bad. That's not a bad mugshot. Like, he doesn't look wasted. He doesn't look like messed up. He doesn't look cracked out. This might be actually one of the better mugshots I think I've seen. So, shout out to NoFap for having like a good mugshot. Because I mean, I compared this to like the Ricada mugshots. Yeah. That's for educational purposes to keep you guys updated on what's going on. Remember, I'm everyone's friend here. Okay, I try to be friendly with everybody. Probably a few months ago. Okay. If you want to talk about it, I'll be open to it. But you know, if you'd want to talk about it, and I think I'm the sort of guy that could probably talk to him about it. All right, here we go. And RZA, man, I'll tell you what, man, I'll take another free shot in the house for you, RZA. In the spirit of just getting wasted just to get wasted, dude. Right? Come on, man. It's a sad day for y'all. It's a great day for America. Okay? But y'all put up a good fight. Y'all did. All right? Y'all put up a good fight. You know, but America won. And then America saved your ass in World War II. Oh, you smacked this? Well, you know, that happens. A little bit of DV. Well, maybe she wasn't listening. You know? Maybe she wasn't listening.
AIDSy.
Had a thick beard. I don't know, short.
I mean, he was, well, whatever.
But he was just more soft-spoken than the other guy.
Yeah.
Also, thank you for the subbies, Ashes, and Amsterdamage. Thank you, guys. And Mock Lavelle. Sorry, I didn't mean to get off the flow.
No problem.
All right. So, yeah, free shot for RZA. Just for being wasted to be wasted.
Are you done with the...
Oh, can I tell you one more funny story? So a lot of, I knew of the Ethiopians, but also I had some folks from sub-Saharan Africa who were my tenants. And a lot of the men, when they come to America and they're not like young
Here you go,
men,
RZA. This is for you, man.
they just become alcoholics. Like they just can't deal with it. The women become kind of like aware that they have all these new rights and stuff. So the men often just end up just being drinkers, whether they were in the home country or not. So we would have these Ethiopian guys who would come up to the third floor and just get shit-faced up there. But it was like not on me. I wasn't supplying with alcohol. But one time...
Don't worry. You don't have to supply them. They know where to get it. It's everywhere.
This guy, I had no idea that when they were coming and going. It wasn't my job to oversee them. They were grown men. So one time...
But the third floor, wasn't the third floor where the kids were at too? And he had a bunch of drunk... Ethiopians up there? Okay. Interesting.
This guy, he was barely there. And apparently he had come out the side street and then it comes out onto Wickenden Street, which is still a small street. He managed to turn left and he was so drunk that there were cars parked along the side. He managed to ride up the side of a car and end up with his car like this, and then he just called it right there. So he had this car like this in the middle of the road. So all these people were out there. By this time, there was, I think, videos and photographs, and the cops came and everything else. And they just got out of the car.
Thank you, Rizza.
In that situation.
Cheers, absolutely.
They didn't try to go any further.
Cheers.
Hey, that's another shot right there. That's a third shot. You know what my breakfast was today? Carrots. You believe that? Don't believe that. That's a lie. That's a lie. No. We took the kids to this cool coffee shop that has like some pretty cool donuts there. So I got a kolache, you know. All right, here we go. Reza, that's for you, man. Cheers. Cheers. And everyone else in the chat, thank y'all so much for your support, man. Even if you don't donate, hey, I just being around, dude, that's cool. Here we go. Woo. I think we're going to Total Wines after this. That would be cool. Right? Absolutely.
And the woman whose car it was they had rode up on had come in and started saying, "What? Go back to your home country if you can't drive." This is, this kind of stuff. And I was like, lady, it's kind of, and the cops were like, "Shit, how did that happen? How did that?"
That's impressive driving. How did he get it on top of? How did he get his car on top of the other car?
Even happen? How do you ride up on a car? But it was harmless. No one got harmed or anything. But she was like super irate, and I was like, "You got to get out of here."
The property got harmed
because they started getting all like, "Hey, tribal, kind of like we're not into this." So I was like, "You got to get out of here." And it was just a typical kind of clusterfuck of a scene, from that I got in the middle of. And
that's the second story from the Ben Thorp interview of an Ethiopian that doesn't know how to drive. The first story was Ben allowed this Ethiopian dude to just drive his Honda Odyssey. And the guy was blind. The guy was partially blind from working at a factory before or something like that, according to the story. Okay.
I was like, I have no idea how this happened, why it happened, what to do now. But eventually they worked it out, and they always seem to find a way to end up back on their feet, and driving again.
They just kind of like bounce back. Whatever happens, they just move on.
They had a thing. One of the reasons perhaps they're not good drivers is
Monteria, the story literally makes no sense. Well, a lot of the Thorp experience doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? I kind of believe it, but I want to see a reenactment of this, of a car just driving up on top of another car. Like, was it a truck? I could imagine a truck doing that. Like a monster truck, a monster jam right there. Ethiopian style monster jam right there in the freaking intersection. Maybe that's what they were doing. Man, talk about America's birthday. Talk about monster jam. That is a pure American sport right there, huh? Having big old trucks smashing cars, man. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm getting a little hard just thinking about that.
They're resilient. Like, they told me that. So you go in to take your driver's test, and of course, if you speak a different language, you get an interpreter, right? So the interpreter was someone they knew. So, of course, who speaks Amharic? It's a very obscure language. So they told the interpreter what to say, and the interpreter would say it, and then in their language tell them the answer as well. Because who's going to know, right? If you add another couple of syllables in a language that no one's going to pay any attention to. So none of them actually passed the test. I mean,
they passed, but they didn't pass. Okay, gotcha.
None of them actually ever even took the test. They just went in there, and the guy, they knew exactly the guy it was going to be. He had a job. He was making money. You know, so this is the kind of thing. They didn't really have a lot of respect for like the rules. And you can understand that because like whatever, fuck it, right? Like we're just trying to survive here. So that was another they told me that.
Sounds like a mess,
well,
dude.
Guys, that's not you know what I mean? But like I get it. You know, what are you gonna do? It's too easy to cheat in a sense. You know.
Sounds like it, dude.
But it's one of those things, you know. So I'm kind of like I'm not like a liberal.
Yeah. I was about to say, Mark, right there is a good time to ask another question.
When it comes to immigration, you know, because it does have this side in which people can like be scumbags, but they were hard. They were good workers. They were not here just to, like do drugs and you know they
never. Shamu doing something?
One of the interesting experiences I had was. When I was starting out and I was taking him home at night, I would just try to make conversation.
Man, I'm feeling pretty toasty right now.
English or whatever, but I'm just also biding the time. And the guy I started the place with, Emmanuel, I was just talking with him about coming to America and how it was. And I was like, so how's your neighborhood? You know, I was driving him to it and, you know, at like 2 a.m. and it'd been a long night. And I was like, so, you know, what are the good and bad parts about it? And he's like, yeah, I like to be in America, but I don't like the black people.
Wait. Is this an Ethiopian saying this?
With them, help them with their English or whatever, but I'm just also biding the time. And the guy I started the place with, Emmanuel, I was just talking with
so Ethiopian, okay.
Them about coming to America and how it was, and I was like, so.
Well, actually, he wasn't really Ethiopian. He was I forgot what he said. In enrichment, or that's not the word. Enrichian, Syrian, something that's not really Ethiopian.
How's your neighborhood? You know, I was driving him to it, and you know, at like 2 a.m, and it'd been a long night, and I was like, so you know, what are the good and bad parts about it? And he's like, yeah, I like to be in America, but I don't like the black people, you know, and I was like, yeah, you're black, right? But like,
that's great. But you're black.
For him, no.
I would take a look at Shamu
because you know what I mean. He felt like the black people were dangerous and they didn't, you know, they did crime and things like that. So it's kind of a weird experience to be with someone that most of us would see as a black person saying like, I don't like black people. Yeah. It's culturally you realize Africans and black people do not see each other as the same people.
After this interview, we'll get a closure update of
last thing I had for you, Ben, was there's kind of like maybe the most infamous review of the rest.
Eritrea. Thank you, CE, for Googling it. Thank you. That's right. That's what he said yesterday. And when I heard that for the first time, I was like, what is that? That sounds like a mineral you harvest in like StarCraft or, Command and Conquer, you know? It doesn't even sound real. It's probably not even real, honestly. It's probably not even a real country. You know, they just maybe the UN's like, yeah, sure, you're a real country. Yeah, okay. No, they're not real. They're crazy over there.
Restaurant makes a mention to the fact that they waited 2.5 hours for a table in plain.
Yes, there we go. Mark, ask that question.
Culturally, you realize Africans and black people do not see each other as the same people.
And that is true. Africans do not like American blacks.
Last thing I had for you, Ben, was there's kind of like maybe the most infamous review of the restaurant makes a mention to the fact that they waited 2.5 hours for a table in plain view of the owner. Now, were you that representative? Do you remember that visit?
Okay, finally, a spicy question. Okay, what's the answer?
I don't, but I'm not surprised. They waited 2.5 hours for a table. Yeah, because it must have been early on that we would have people waiting a long time. The problem that we had as a restaurant is we were a BYOB restaurant, which you didn't need any licenses for, bring your own alcohol. But that also makes people kind of camp out. And especially since we had the second floor, you couldn't see people were waiting on the second floor. So you'd have these campers who would just be there for 4 hours drinking wine, which we weren't making money off and had to provide like glassware for. So that was true of a lot of restaurants on that street because college kids don't want to go to a place where, you know what I mean? They will bring their own booze, get drunk, buy your food. And like, that's kind of the deal. You know what I mean? So, but a lot of times they would just be like there for the night. And if it's a Friday or Saturday night, some of the other restaurants would actually have the waiters go like, you've got to get out of here. Like, that's it. You've got to leave. And we never kind of really wanted to do that because.
So the story is there wasn't a table available because you have all these college kids bringing their booze, drinking the booze there. No, I don't believe that. Not buying that story.
I don't know. We were just like kind of like didn't want to be brutal. That it's hard to say like, you know, how long do you get it? It's weird to get thrown out. You know what I mean? You really have to tell them ahead of time, like you got to finish within an hour or something like that. So that's probably what happened there. Eventually the waiters had what would happen is they'd give unrealistic times to kind of keep people there. Do you know what I mean? And you could see how a waiter would do that because they want the tip. But then that would piss the patrons off because they're like, you told me 20 minutes. You know what I mean? And I think most restaurants do give you a little bit unrealistic times. But they learned because the kitchen was so slow that...
because Courtney was the only one cooking. You know, she had the Ethiopians in the back that weren't doing anything. Hey, I'm not trying to say Ethiopians are lazy, but that's what Ben is saying here. I mean,
like, you know, it isn't like working in another restaurant. You know, it's going to be a long time. So eventually, but we also probably lost customers that way. I don't know. It's kind of one of those. It's one of those things. It's definitely.
It's like stalling here, big time.
It sucks to have to wait, but I mean, if you're waiting, I don't know. It may have been that they just got there and they were waiting for 2.5 hours. I don't think we owe it to anyone to have a table for them. You know, you see how many people are in front of you, you see how fast the line moves, and you make your decision.
Wait, don't be a victim. Don't be a victim.
And it's a slow, I don't know.
Eritreans are lazy. Well, I guess so. They're not even a real country.
Yeah. To me, that's very different than saying like I got sick off the food or like it was low quality or whatever. And you know, there's only so much you can do in those situations. It's a good thing if people want to wait for your food, but I do understand that maybe a lot of times we're unrealistic or just shit happened in the back that shouldn't happen in a professional kitchen.
Professional kitchen. Didn't sound like it was very professional at all with the water dripping from the ceiling and the slugs in the basement.
But
anything else like you can think of as far as like any stories or memories or things you want to get on the record about the restaurant that we didn't cover?
Anything else?
No, I mean, I think when you read the reviews, they're mostly pretty glowing reviews, I think, right? There was very little...
Actually, in regard to the food, the
there
food part of the reviews were really good. Service, was kind of...
Service was lackluster.
Yeah. It's too bad we couldn't...
And the one guy who said you were watching the Flintstones on an iPad, I don't know if that's true or not.
There were some people who complained because our kids would sometimes be there during the lunch service. Which I don't care because, like, to me, well, it's a family business, you know what I mean? And having kids there, I don't feel like, you know, because we usually lost money during lunch because we had relatively small amount of customers. Some people felt like that was unprofessional, but like...
Dude, you'd think during lunch you'd make a lot of money as a restaurant. right? You're running a restaurant. When do you think your peak time is going to be?
Yeah, I don't really care. So, I mean, yeah, I agree. The service, the whole setup could have been done much better if we had done it from the start.
And Ben, if Courtney was running the back, was running the kitchen, who was running the front for the service? Who's running that? That was your job, right? Who's running that?
But I do think the key is the food.
Don't be a
And if
victim.
people didn't
Don't be a
want to wait
victim
for a
time.
table. They could have gotten takeout. So I don't know how much tears I cry for that. It is what it is. We're a slow restaurant working with. If they fucking knew what was going on in the back, I think they would have appreciated it. It's tough to work with people from another culture, a very slow culture, who
They're
don't
lazy.
really understand the American fast. Another thing in their culture, even when it's not a refugee culture, it's insulting in a lot of Middle Eastern cultures to serve food quickly. They find it insulting, and it's more like the Italian thing where you like.
This sounds like a lot of cope.
You know what I mean? So
Make
one
the
course, then slowly bring out another course. So it was hard to get.
The big mistake is Ben should have just hired Guatemalans to make the Ethiopian food, okay? Because they know how to work, apparently. Because go to a restaurant near you. Who's serving the food? No, who's not serving the food? Who's cooking the food? They're probably speaking Spanish.
Get that translated to like East Coast, and also money making. You need to turn tables. But Grace, did you have any other thoughts?
What kind of pizza do we have here? Can we show the camera?
Hawaiian.
Domino's. Oh, pineapple. Oh, God. No.
Yummy.
I got a couple questions for you, Grace, if you
Sure.
want to answer them.
Mhm.
Did you ever waitress at the restaurant?
Yeah, a lot.
What was that experience like?
I in fact had her.
Hey, Ben, it was Grace's question, not your question.
What do you call it? Stuff her bra
Yeah.
to make her look
Oh,
older.
yeah.
To make her look old.
What the? Well, that explains why Grace's boobs change. Dude, you just heard that? Ben would have Grace stuff her bra at the restaurant to make her look older. To me. So yeah, those streams where you see Grace look like she has a bigger bust than what she normally has because she has sagging tits. You know what's going on with that?
Older.
Yeah, somebody told me to bring that up, but I high and forgot about it.
Joe Shabatoni, give
But at
it a
least it's
sub.
we got it covered.
Thank you, Joe Shabatoni. Thank you for the subbies. One more sub and we hit the goal. Thank you guys. At
Did
first,
you see the slugs in the basement too?
yes. My mom.
Like, how many slugs are we talking about?
I mean, it would be like 2 or 3 a day. They were kind of scary because they just kind of like snuck. You just be walking around.
Oh, she was 13? Oh man, that's. Oh. Ben telling her his 13-year-old daughter to stuff her bra. Okay.
Around, and then you'd like reach into a shelf, and then it'd be
Wow,
behind it.
man.
And you'd be like, but when they were on the floor, my mom, she would just like she would be making the injera. You put it on you put this dough on a crepe plate, and you sort of shift it around, and she would just take a thing of salt and spray it at them, and then just keep cooking. But she would have me encircle them and trap them, and then I would get to like sprinkle the salt on top to make them die. It was very satisfying.
So they were even in the kitchen? Holy hell, dude. You had slugs in the kitchen.
Wow.
Waitressing was tough at first. I dropped a lot of stuff on people. I dropped 6 glasses of water on somebody at my first table. So I was like, oh, I can do the tray. And then I
Just the
lifted
balance.
one off and it all went.
Balance.
People would interrogate me about how old I was. They'd be like, how old are you? And I was like 16. And they were like, are you sure? And I was like,
because Ben was having his 13-year-old daughter work that job. I don't think that's legal. Got to consult the laws again, but I don't think that's legal there. It's crazy, man. Crazy.
Yeah. Pretty awkward. But overall, it was a good experience. The other waiters would steal my tips, which was annoying.
Yeah, they were bad.
They were like, who steals a 13-year-old girl's tips? But they would.
They were scumbags.
I would get really annoyed at people who would tip like the change they paid cash to. And there would be some really annoying college kids late at night who would just get super drunk. But, you know, I felt like I handled it pretty well. I don't know.
The best 12-year-old waitress, Ethiopia.
A 12-year-old wait. It gets even worse at 12. Okay.
Ethiopian waitress in America, I would say.
Yeah.
I think that's all I got, unless one of you two has anything else you wanted to add to it.
I would just say overall, thinking back on it, I kind of like in my head had it as like a pretty bad experience, but there were a lot of fun times. You know, it was a funny experience overall, I would say. I feel like it didn't have to be such a bad memory in everybody's heads as it was. It was pretty funny. I mean, we were just kids, so it was kind of like an adventure, and it's pretty funny overall. I don't know. Going to the restaurant depot and,
No.
you know, working with these African people, and the food was really good.
Gelato make.
All right. I looked into it. Yes, a family restaurant can hire their 12-year-old child. Federal child labor laws generally allow children of any age to work in a business solely owned by their parents. However, state laws may vary, so it's crucial to check the specific regulations in the state there, okay? And whatever state they're in. So, okay. So within the laws there, it didn't have to say that she was 16. I don't know what that is all about. Unless in Providence it is not legal.
Makers on eBay.
That was funny. I think me and my dad, like,
Rhode
when we were in
Island.
that warehouse together, we were subsisting almost entirely on like oatmeal cream pies
No, from the Price Right.
from the Price Right and like or Fanta or Pepsi. So
We made crazy money though.
yeah,
The guy running the warehouse, his name was David Sabino, and he had this other guy with him who showed Grace once he had like sawed off his fingers or something, and then he replaced him with like
his
ass skin.
ass tissue, so they look
So-
like hot dogs.
Eric E. Power.
And I literally almost threw up. I ran out to the car and I got a migraine from it. It was probably also from the stress, but like I got a migraine. It was the first migraine I ever got.
All right, we're gonna be wrapping up soon after this interview. We'll get the update on NoFap Gamer, and then we'll be wrapping up. I'll have to get some stuff for some festivities tonight, and yeah.
You would have these like a pizza. You ever seen a pizza oven? It's like 9 feet tall.
If you want me to take another
like,
shot, now's the time. Is
8
what I'm
feet
saying.
Wide, 5 feet deep, weighs like 3,000 pounds. So, how do you pack that, right? For transport. And I remember getting like an old mattress and then another old mattress, sandwiching them together and just running like that plastic stuff around it. And then
Packing
the freight guy would show up. David would be like, I wouldn't accept that if it was sent to me. I was like, well, we'll see. Then the freight guy would show up like, what the fuck? And he's like, fuck it. Let's just get it on there. Bang it up there. And then we
Dude,
never
that
had
is
a
so
return.
rigged, dude.
But one guy with a pizza oven, he's like, oh, this doesn't fit in my doors. And I was like, well, I don't know what to tell you. I put the
Of
measurements.
doors? Come on.
Yeah,
All
you gotta
sales
change
are
your
final.
doors. You're not sending back a $5,000 pizza oven.
Replace your home, sir.
That was his fault.
No, but the prices were great.
Yeah, don't be a
Compared
victim
to
of
buying
the door.
stuff new, they got a great deal. But for us, since we didn't pay anything, it was all profit. So
Well, thank you for the interview. I appreciate it. I feel like we got a lot of lore. We have a pretty good definitive take, well, Ben's take on the restaurant and everything. I liked hearing all the stories, and I do think you guys had mostly like, I mean, that's some of the stories were, you know, weird or whatever, but I feel like it was mostly like a positive. It sounded like you had a lot of fond memories of the restaurant and your time being a part of it.
The whole thing to me was like one huge nightmare. Honestly, I don't know if you've ever experienced something that's so stressful that even when you're sleeping, you're dreaming it.
Yeah, it's got a job.
It's like a 24-hour. It's crazy. It's just really, really stressful. But, you know, it's amazing people are pretty resilient. And
okay,
when it ended,
that's like all the jobs I ever worked.
To, like, get things back on track.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, you know, fuck it. It's America. Credit card companies, you know, what are they going to do if I don't pay them?
Oh, another great moment
are they gonna do, kill me?
after the restaurant closed and my dad was very depressed. He briefly considered getting life insurance and then self-deleting. Not.
Thank you, Grace, for volunteering that information. Ben was thinking about getting life insurance and getting a motorcycle and driving right into an 18-wheeler.
Really, but briefly considered it.
Yeah, that was one of the.
And he brought it up to my mom, and she said, "Yeah, I considered you doing that too."
Oh my God! Wow.
So
yeah. Okay, I guess that's a way you can answer that.
That's one way you could support the family, Ben.
I wasn't
Courtney
very
wins
serious.
again.
I just felt like, you know, am I any use at this point?
Classic Courtney. I didn't know about that until much later, and I was like, "What?"
No, but that didn't surprise me or shock me at the time. Which lets you know.
That is so awesome. That is great, dude. That was the best part of this interview, I think.
Oh, like exactly where we were at that point. I'm supposed to be that like,
right, well,
oh my God, don't say that.
Right. Oh, honey, no. How could you ever say that?
Like, yeah,
my kids need a father, and I love you. It's like, yeah, I thought about that too.
I'll help you arrange it. Cliff.
I'm gonna go, but I appreciate you guys talking with me and sharing all of your memories and the lore about the restaurant. Hopefully, Joe Shabatoni's happy with the.
Very happy. In
results,
fact,
but...
Joe Shabatoni, how about you round us off with the last sub of the night? How about it, buddy? Huh? This is what you've been waiting for.
Oh, Joe Shabatoni's on. Oh, he's been called out
for this whole week.
Well, we also want to say, Mark, thanks for all of the work you've done for free.
The clips,
all the clips you've done, and it's been fantastic. I do want to say we were hitting a little bit of a low point, but I think we're coming back out of the trough. So get those plans together for Fusion Studios.
Yes.
Fusion Studios, Naptown Studios, our first two projects once we emerge from utter poverty.
Bye, Mark.
Well, good luck on that, guys.
Bye. You too. See you later.
Yeah.
All right, let's get the update on No Fap Gamer. Okay. The No Fap Gamer, we saw his mugshot earlier. If you missed it, it was our. I mean, I guess you can go back in the stream. I guess, but in this clip, No Fap Gamer is going to talk about, I guess, why he was arrested.
Just you understand how you're the sole owner and carer of a dog. You have recent pictures of her where she's staying with a family member while you troon out in fucking.
All right. I was unable. I was detained for a long period of time. I was unable to take care of the dog.
I'm sorry. Would you care to elaborate? You were detained for a long period of time by who? The trans investigation team? Like, what do you mean?
No, I had some legal problems for a while, but they're all gone now. I can't really say on here. I was just dealing with some false accusations and. I was in.
Are you on a list now, Tropic?
Huh?
Are you on a list now?
No, the case got dismissed.
Was it your ex that did something like some?
False She filed a false charge against me, and like the charge was so stupid that like she didn't even want to bother trying to defend it.
Right. Okay.
Okay. That's NoFap's take of it. NoFap says it was a false charge. I have no way to prove that it was or wasn't. I mean, do we have a... I mean, if there was a way to get the papers, I think Shamu would be the man on the case there. Okay. Here's the mugshot there. You can see it right there. Arrested for battery. Now, I like to be fair. I like to hear both sides, you know? So my opinion on this is like, okay, so he said it was a false charge. Maybe it was real, maybe it wasn't. I don't know. You know? I don't know what's going on there. Being arrested for battery, that's not the worst thing, you know? Well, what was happening there, you know? He looks completely trustworthy, completely on the level. Yeah. I will say, though, for a mugshot, it's not the worst I've seen. Yeah, definitely I've seen far worse mugshots than that, you know? Anyway, hopefully we'll get some follow-up details on that. Maybe you could, I don't know what level of detail NoFap is willing to go into on that or provide papers or anything so we can clear it up. I try to give people a fair shake, so maybe you can talk to me about it, you know? Anyway, that is pretty much it. That wraps up our 4th of July stream here. I wasn't really going to stream, but I remembered, you know what? I never got around to following up on that interview, and I need to do that. Oh, someone here posted this. I guess they're trying to prove to me that Eritrea actually is a country. Let me show you guys this, okay? This is what I have here, okay? Look at this. Look at this. We got Ethiopia here. You got Sudan, and then you got Eritrea. Now, I'm looking at this. I'm thinking, nice Photoshop job. Whoever sent this. This is not real. No. I think this was a mistake. Okay. I think we're looking at a weird map that was made by someone who was drunk and high at the same time. All right. Look, well, one of the cities is called Gash. What is that? No. Fake. Eritrea is not a country. Doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. No. We're not going to humor that. We're not going to humor that fake news right there. Absolutely not a country. All right. So I hope you guys have a good time, good festivities. Tomorrow morning I'll be streaming the members-only stream. There is that. Where I will go into detail about my doctor visits. And I'll even show you images of my doctors so you can see that. All right. With that said, you guys take it easy and have a good one.
Shake it, baby.
Happy 4th, N-word. Cheers, tumbler glass firecracker, United States.
Well, there's another shot right there. Thank you, Monterio. All right. Another shot. And let's do that. We'll do like a mini shot. Okay. So the map was made by a dead man. Yeah, it was. It was probably made by me. Thank you. You found it. Here we go. But high. I never get high. It's all American tobacco. Everything's all American tobacco here. I like tobacco in a pipe, and I like tobacco, in a cigar form. I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, that's it. Y'all take it easy and have a good one.